So with getting back into Predator kills the Marvel Universe, we know that there's going to be quite a few casualties along the way, but even still, for me, there's some times where I'm just like, come on man, he wouldn't have went out like that. And along the way, I would love for you guys to let me know the moments where you might have similar thoughts on the topic. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back for issue 2 of Predator Kills the Marvel Universe. This continues the return of Kraken, who left with the Yautja Hunters back in Spider-Man vs. Predator after he was blooded and considered a worthy hunter. And since his return, he's been helping the Predator's body heroes left and right, like we saw with Star-Lord and the other Guardians of the Galaxy. And I mean, what seemed to be all of them except for Rocket. And after that, Kraven led the Yautja Hunters to the dark side of the moon, where they pulled off a very violent sneak attack on the Fantastic Four, leaving only Sue Richards as a survivor. And I mean, aside from her, you technically have Ben Grimm floating out there in space, but who knows what that's going to lead to, if anything. But now with Kraven and these other Predators stationed on the dark side of the moon, as their advisor, he's preparing them to attack Earth. And as we're told, Kraven speaks, and the Yautja listen, with him going on to say here, if you want the Earth, you need to think of it as the ultimate trophy, a skull you haven't yet stripped of flesh. By killing Reed Richards, you are stabbing its brain. By taking out the thing, you are breaking a fang. And as he's saying this, he's leading a whole fleet of Predators down to Earth while flying the Guardian ship alongside one of the Predator's main hunters, Graveyard, who we were introduced to back in Predator vs. Black Panther. But Kraven goes on here saying, by taking out the thing, you're breaking a fang, but you will have to move quietly and quickly before the rest of the animal registers the pain. Our only chance is a blitz, 1,000 cuts, coming all at once before the Earth can turn its full gaze on us and mount a counterattack. And as they get closer, they split into two parties, with one following Kraven and the other following Graveyard, which from here takes us over to the Xavier Institute in Westchester, New York, where we find Professor X and Magneto playing chess and having a conversation, or really more so a debate, with Magneto saying all of mankind is their enemy, and Charles is trying to tell him how mankind's not a monolith, because different people see things different, and there are mutants who hate humans too. And you know, I think we should see more of these mutants who hate humans. I really think we should see that more often. Because imagine a mutant just walking around saying things like, hey man, no homo sapien, I don't get down like that. Because I imagine that's how some of Magneto's acolytes were talking back in the day. But right in the middle of this debate, Charles grabs his head and he senses a pain so great that it just knocks him out of his chair. And you would think with Charles having a friend who's the master of magnetism, he could have stopped Charles from falling out of that chair that's mostly metal. But in this moment, this is Charles sensing the death of the Fantastic Four. And more so in the case of Sue, with him describing it to Eric saying something's wrong. I felt pain, the immeasurable pain of love lost. It was a cry for help, but it was a warning too. And he says, old friend, I am honestly terrified, as we now see Graveyard's ship hovering right above them. And before you know it, Magneto just gets pulled right through the roof. And it makes sense, because we're even told here that Magneto is up there at the top of the kill list. He's one of the people who Kraven told the Predators like, hey, we gotta go for him first. Magneto's one of them, as he should be. Because Magneto could quickly stop any invasion, because to be honest, he could destroy their entire fleet with just a thought. So thanks to Kraven, now that the Predators know this, not only was killing Magneto made a priority, but they also designed a custom weapon for him, an inversion magnet made from vibranium. And I'd even dare to say, because we've seen Magneto do some unconventional things with his powers over the years, but out there to say, had it not been for the element of surprise, otherwise he may have been able to adapt and get out of this. But because there was no warning, or at least no clear warning, Magneto was taken out before he could fully understand what was happening. And this was just Graveyard's team getting started, because now that they got Magneto and soon to be the Professor out of the way, a ton of them start dropping down into the mansion, including Graveyard himself. But before we see how that goes down, next we jump over to the Triskelion in New York, S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where at this moment they flagged an alien vessel descending fast and heading in their direction, and they quickly identify it as the Milano, as Peter Quill and the Guardian ship. But at first they're like all the Guardians, they never remember protocol, and as Kraven gets closer, they request his vessel ID and flight path. And that's when the Predator who's with them uses the voice recording of Peter Quill. From issue 1, when they lured the Guardians into a trap, it uses the recording of Peter's voice, who was radioing in on a rescue mission to communicate with S.H.I.E.L.D., and they buy it. And I gotta say, hear me out. I gotta say, even with how messed up this actually is, it does make for a moment that has me like, hey, okay now, that's some good storytelling. Because if this was handled any other way right now, it would have been a missed opportunity. But I like this because they end up using everything Star-Lord said before he was killed, and the voice ID checks out. But S.H.I.E.L.D. does point out here that the radar doesn't match up with the Milano specs. And mind you, there are also a ton of other Predator ships coming in too, because this is Kraven's team here. But even with S.H.I.E.L.D. noticing how the radar doesn't match up with the Milano specs, they kinda just brushed that off too. Because one of them's just like, oh, you know, that ship's been blown apart and patched together so many times, it's a wonder it's still flying. Let's get them out of this storm. And that's when they hear Quill's voice asking for permission to dock locally. So S.H.I.E.L.D. grants permission and they tell these guys to enjoy their stay in New York. And they're also like, don't get in too much trouble on this dark and stormy night, not knowing who and what all they just let in. I swear, if Nick Fury would have seen this, he'd be rolling his eye right now. But then it's here where we go back to the Weapons Plus facility in Virginia, where we find General Pet, who had been locked in a room with Predator X by Dr. Cornelius. And I'll be honest, when I saw this, I was like, I ain't think she was gonna make it to this issue. But come to find out, this was Dr. Cornelius showing her the proof of what he had been working on this whole time. And I mean, all the while showing her this proof much closer than she would have liked. But after some time, Dr. Cornelius tells Predator X that's enough, and he tells it to set her down. And right away, General Pet's like, you know, I can have you shot for this. Only for Dr. Cornelius to be like, but you won't, because what I have here is far too valuable to you. When she tells him to give her the short and dirty version of what she's looking at, he tells her, in a word, it's a predator, an alien species that we believe has been hunting on our planet for several centuries, at least. And thanks to my mind-wiping technology, this particular specimen now belongs to me. And I mean, it's like, regardless of how confident he is in his work, we know just based on Logan's past, there's a good chance this could go terribly wrong at some point. Or depending on whose perspective you're looking from, this could be something that turns out really good, because who knows, this guy could become a hero. And now back over at the Xavier mansion, we jump over to the X-Men, who are in the danger room. Emphasis on danger, with them currently going through one of their Sentinel training programs. And of course they crush it here because they've only done it like a billion times. But as soon as they finish, Graveyard just starts walking up to them, with his team following closely behind. So Scott turns around and he looks at Hank like, hey man, I thought this was supposed to be a Sentinel training program. And Hank is just like, how curious. Perhaps the lightning storm has surged our system. And it's like, to me, even if you're in the middle of a training program, you still see something out there, you still fighting. But instead Scott's just like, oh, okay, well, let's reboot. I want to make sure the team is, and then Graveyard just catches Scott off guard. Which again is these surprise attacks. It's like Invasion of the Sneak Hitters. But Kraven and the Predators are not going to have this element of surprise forever. So they've got to make sure and spend it on the heavy hitters, which from here takes us over to Avengers Tower, where we find Captain America, Widow, and Hawkeye, who are all kind of just lounging for the most part, just as Cap sees the Guardian ship, the Milano, getting ready to land. So the three of them head outside to meet the Guardians, and Cap's just like, hey, what can I get for you ladies to drink? What you having, Quill? I'm just playing. But when they get out here and it's quiet, like real quiet, it's not long before Cap and Widow are like, wait, okay, something's not right. And they realize that this is actually a trap, which allows them to at least have a fighting chance here, as opposed to just getting caught by one of the Predators with a sneak hit. And while this is going on, inside the Avengers Tower, there's another high priority target, who we're told just might be at the very top of the list. And not just one of the targets at the top this time, but like the guy for the Ouch to look out for. With this person, of course, being none other than Bruce Banner, who in one of these images kind of looks like Christian Bale. See, now you can't unsee it. But while Bruce is here in his lab, he hears something, so he goes to check it out, only for him to head over to the lab entrance and find Captain America's shield just laying there, covered in blood, which right there lets us know that the fight up top didn't go so well. And just the very sight of this causes Bruce to Hulk out. And he was very much meant to approach the doorway and see this, because Kraven staged this whole thing as bait. So now he's got to hightail it and lure the Hulk out, because his hunting party has one shot at getting this right, because if they don't, it's a wrap for them. Because let's be clear, if the Hulk were to catch Kraven, it would be over for him immediately. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments about these Predators knocking out these guys so quick. Because you would think some of the heroes aside from Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Black Panther would have been able to hold their own long enough for their own series. And I mean, this time it is different because there are a lot more Predators and they have Kraven's help as far as intel going into this. But even still, man, it's kind of hard to see some of these heroes go out so easy. But let me know what you guys think. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone that's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.